The marble halls of the royal palace on Chandrila were designed to echo with the sounds of peace and diplomacy. But Princess Elara, weary of her father's stagnant pacifism and desperate for the throne, saw them only as a cage. She wanted a new republic, one built on her own iron-willed vision. To get it, she reached into the galactic underworld and found a shadow. They called him Vane. He was a freelance assassin with a reputation for total erasure, but the rumors of his fractured mind were dismissed by Elara as mere campfire stories to frighten rivals. "Just my father," she had whispered in the dark of the palace gardens, handing him a credit chip worth a small moon. "Make it look like a heart failure. Clean, quiet." Vane had looked at her with eyes that didn't seem to focus on her face, but rather on the space just behind her ear. He didn't speak. He simply smiled, a jagged, lopsided thing, and vanished into the mist. The night of the Red Echo. The quiet death Elara prayed for never came. At the hour of the second moon, a scream tore through the east wing. It was followed by a sound Elara would never forget, the rhythmic, wet thud of a vibro axe meeting wood and bone. Elara rushed from her chambers, her heart hammering against her ribs. She expected to find her father dead. Instead, she found a slaughterhouse. Vane hadn't gone for the king's heart. He had started with the nurseries. Elara's younger brothers, the twins who had done nothing but laugh and play, were gone. Her mother, the queen, lay draped across the threshold of the great hall, her throat opened with surgical, manic precision. "Vane!" Elara shrieked, stumbling over the body of a royal guard whose armor had been peeled back like a fruit. "Stop! This wasn't the deal." From the shadows of the throne room, Vane emerged. He was drenched in the blue and red blood of the Chandrilan court. He wasn't even using a blaster. He held a serrated combat blade in one hand and a heavy thermal detonator in the other. "The family tree," Vane giggled, a high, whistling sound that made Elara's skin crawl. "Too many branches, princess. Too much shade. I'm just pruning, making room for the sun." The long hunt. Vane killed the king last, forcing Elara to watch as he pruned the final branch of her lineage. Then, he turned those unfocused eyes on her. "Now," he whispered, "the sun must set." Elara fled. She spent the next 3 days as a ghost in her own palace. She crawled through the narrow ventilation shafts and the hidden servant tunnels, listening to Vane whistle a haunting, off-key nursery rhyme as he dragged his blade along the stone walls. He didn't just want to kill her, he was playing. He would leave small gifts for her to find in the dark, her father's signet ring, a lock of her mother's hair, a shattered toy from the nursery. The princess, once draped in the finest silks of the Republic, was now a feral creature covered in dust and grease, her mind fracturing under the weight of the silence. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the pruning. The final throne. On the fourth night, Elara realized she couldn't outrun a madman in a house of the dead. She lured him to the high balcony, the place where she was supposed to have been crowned. When Vane stepped out into the moonlight, he found Elara standing by the railing, her back turned. "Beautiful," Vane rasped, raising his blade. "The last leaf." As he lunged, Elara didn't scream. She didn't move. She had rigged the heavy tapestries of the High Republic, massive, gold-threaded banners, to a release trigger. With a sharp tug of a hidden wire, the tons of fabric collapsed, entangling Vane in a suffocating web of history and gold. Vane thrashed, his muffled laughter still echoing from beneath the cloth. Elara didn't hesitate. She picked up a fallen guard's pike and drove it through the center of the writhing tapestry, again and again, until the laughter turned to a wet gurgle, and finally, to the Queen of Ash. The coup was successful. Elara was the only survivor, the sole heir to the throne of Chandrila. The people cheered her coronation, mourning the terrorist attack that had claimed the royal family. They saw a brave, stoic young woman who had survived a nightmare to lead them. But Elara never truly left the tunnels. She sat on the throne, the heavy gold crown pressing down on her brow. Every time she looked at the marble floors, she saw the blue blood. Every time the wind whistled through the palace spires, she heard Vane's off-key nursery rhyme. She had her power. She had her throne. But as she sat in the absolute silence of her empty palace, Elara realized that Vane had been right. He had pruned the tree, but he had left the roots to rot in a garden of ghosts. She was the queen of Chandrila, but she was the only prisoner in a kingdom of the dead.